That's how you know they're unteachable. So it's no point, once again, somebody that's unteachable, it's no point in you trying to waste hot air, trying to get them to understand what it is you're talking about. You're wasting time and energy, and it's not our responsibility to do that anyway. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so number 9, cerebral, vulnerable narcissists discredit professionals. So if you tell them something about what a professional said in relation to whatever topic you guys are talking about, yeah, I know, but I bet they don't know about this. Well, I know you said that emotional and spiritual maturity and health, that they run hand in hand. And I know I've read all the books regarding this particular psychologist, that particular psychologist, this shame researcher, that shame. I know all about that. I know, but, and I know they've done 20, 30, 40 years of research, but it's always, I know, but it's always that they know more, not only than you, they know more than the professionals who have been in these studies for umpteen years, right? And also, in order to discount and invalidate you, because remember, there's always a one-upping game, right? That you may or may not knowingly be participating in. But in order for them to be able to keep one-upping you, they have to one down the professional, right? But they already think that they're more knowledgeable than the professional anyway. So either way it goes, they're going to one down the professional and they're going to one down you. And in turn, they're one downing the professional, right? It's just reinforcement, constant reinforcement, okay? So then next, that's number 10. Number 10, lack of empathy. And so what happens is, this is what's going to fool you with that. When you first met that person, because you share so much and the information was so vulnerable, right? That you're like, wow, I'm surprised anybody would share that, which is why they call it cerebral, vulnerable narcissists, right? Because they were vulnerable with you. So you're thinking, if somebody's vulnerable with me, right, then that means that they had to have empathy. All of that is done to just pull you in. And it's going to last like that in that type of situation, just as long as they want it to last. But think about it. If anybody spends, and we all have been guilty of being insecure, of having low self-esteem, of being in a situation where we've not shown our best selves. You know, our perfectionism will kick in, the insecurity and shame, and sometimes that's the spirits of abandonment and rejection might kick in. So we might not necessarily be our best selves, right? And so any of us can be prone into getting into this one-upping type of thing. What I'm talking about is from the time this person wakes up to the time they go to bed, 24/7, 365 days a year, right? For years and years and years and years. This is that person's MO. So it's one thing for you to know that this seed of envy is in your heart, and you need to work on that one-upping spirit, which is triggered by your insecurities and that type of thing, right? And low self-esteem. So that's one thing. But what I'm talking about for a cerebral, vulnerable narcissist, the one-upping, right, with that root is the seed of envy, that's their MO. That is their MO. Every day, all day long, 24/7. That is their norm. So think about it. If you are so caught up in one-upping somebody else, how are you going to empathize with somebody that you're trying to prove that you're better than, you're superior than, you're greater than? How can you empathize with somebody that you keep doing this to? You can't. And like I said, even though we all have baked into that competition, but I'm talking about this is baked into an operating system, so to speak, as if you are installing like Windows 10 or Windows 11 or whatever, right? This is baked into the operating system. So there's no way in the world that there can be empathy when all you're functioning on every day, all day long, is trying to see how you can one up somebody. It's just crazy, right? It leads us to number 11. They use their vulnerability status to say, this is why my life looks like this. And I call it toxic comparative suffering, because comparative suffering means where we're going through trials, tribulation, trauma, and drama. Somebody else is going through trials, tribulation, trauma, and drama. And then sometimes if we're not careful, we can start comparing it and thinking that, well, what I'm going through is worse than what you're going through because my mama's sick and somebody else, well, my grandmother and uncle's sick. And then you figure because it's your mother, it should be more important. Nobody's situation is more or less important than the other person. And you can't even determine because it's a parent or another relative or a friend as far as how much pain somebody else is going through. That's not even our call to make. But sometimes we can be so hardy in thinking that. But like I said, once again, with the lack of empathy and the one-upping, this is baked into the operating system of a cerebral, vulnerable narcissist. They do toxic comparative suffering all the way down to death, where they're comparing who's in the most pain. And like I said, you get in there, you think you're going to get down there in the mud with them, you're going to get in that ring with them and fight and get entangled in that web, you're going to be right in the mud with them. It's going to be nasty. You're going to come out in filth and mud. It's going to be a mess, right? And so, like I said, they got this toxic comparative suffering, right? And that toxic comparative suffering, believe it or not, is part of that is they will have like 3 to 4 lines that they say all the time. And it's going to be almost like a short little poem or a song they're saying all the time. If you pay attention, they're going to like recite these 3 to 4 lines. And it's going to be like, it's almost going to be the banner that they're wearing across, like they're Miss America, except you won't know. It's the banner. And after a while, you're like, man, they say that every day, all day long. But it's going to be 3 or 4 lines that they're going to say that's going to make everybody go like, wow, they really got it bad. You see what I'm saying? It's a banner that they wear. And it's toxic. I call it toxic comparative suffering as well as toxic victimhood. They actually wear a trophy out of toxic victimhood. That's the only way I could think of it, right? But those 3 to 4 lines that they've made up and that they're wearing like a banner, it's their cover for not taking responsibility for their actions. And it's going to take you a while to figure that out. It's nothing but a cover. And what it is saying is basically, this is the reason why my life looked like this, because I have more things that I'm responsible for than the average individual. Those 3 to 4 lines, they're going to be saying about what they're responsible for, about their parents, relatives, children, all of that. It's all a cover, right? And you know how we all have different things of coping mechanisms / dysfunctional patterns of behavior. Those 3 to 4 lines are a cover for not taking responsibility, right? It's like, this is why my life is just in an uproar. You see what I'm saying? This is why my house looks like this from top to bottom. It's a cover. It's going to be those 3 to 4 lines they're saying every day, all day, and they're going to use it. The cerebral, vulnerable narcissist is going to use those 3 to 4 lines. You're going to have it memorized in your head. It's going to be like a nightmare. I promise you that, right? And so what happens is that, like I said, all of us have things to do. One person might have 10 traumatic things. Another person might have 5 traumatic things. Numbers don't mean anything. Who the person is you're dealing with their, as far as them being physically sick, that doesn't mean anything. Neither one of us are any more or less important than the next, right? The ground is level at the foot of the cross, and we often forget that. When it comes to the cerebral, vulnerable narcissist, there is no level ground, right? They're always in the superior / greater than, like you're dealing with 2 numbers / more than position, always according to them, right? You're thinking you're level, you're not. So the next one is number 12, the spirit of entitlement that resides within them when it comes to monies and valuables that other people possess. There's a spirit of entitlement, right? When it comes to money and valuables that other people possess, they feel that they should have, right? And sometimes this leads to theft, right? And so they also will use, like King Ahab did, they will use their status and their trials to reinforce their sense of entitlement. Well, I'm a single woman, and so I should be entitled to that. I am a divorced woman. I am in poverty. I'm poverty stricken. I have family members who are physically and mentally ill, right? Anything, right? I'm this race or have this ethnicity and part of this culture and have this type of tradition and part of this group, so I'm entitled to it. It's amazing what you will see come out of a cerebral, vulnerable narcissist. It's enough to have your mouth open and not even know about how to close it when you see the level of entitlement that is involved. And a lot of them will really come out and sneak a lot of little racist comments out there little by little. It'll be like little uh, daggers, so to speak, in your soul, a little bit at a time. And then when you go back, you go like, when you start really thinking about it, that didn't feel good. That really didn't feel good. And you keep getting those daggers like that over time. That's racial trauma. Number 13, they will offer you breadcrumbs every now and then. So when I say that is, say for instance, I already told you they're in superior, greater than, more than position, right? Always. They always in the one up and you always in the one down, right? And so they'll talk about all of their traumatic experiences and you'll talk about all your traumatic experiences and theirs is always better than yours, right? It's always superior, even when it comes to, like I said, trauma and death. It's just that bad. So what happens is every now and then you might get quiet on them as you're on the phone or